Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to Project 1 Web Page Comp. And what you're looking at right now is a sample of a web page comp. This is a JPEG that'll be in your folder. Right now it's flattened, so it won't have all the layers and layer folders that you're going to create. And it's just an example of a layout, but we are going to use this same grid, which basically has a header, an address bar, a nav section on the left, and a side section on the right that has the inset pictures, a main section in the middle that has a headline and some body copy, and a footer section at the bottom that just has a tagline. So this is kind of the layout we're going to be working with, although we're going to alter the colors, we're going to alter the photos that we use, and obviously the fonts and the type a little bit. Some of the concepts we're going to be working with this project are going to be working with photos. Here we have a header photo, we have inset photos. We're going to be working with text. We have text on buttons, we have an address bar, tagline, we have body copy, we have a little tagline across the top. There's a logo that's already going to be here. We're also going to be working with shapes. You can see we have these background shapes for the address bar, for the footer, for the nav section, and the aside. So we're going to be creating vector shapes too with Photoshop. And we're going to be reviewing using layer masks. The top part of this header photo is going to use a layer mask so that you can reposition it without actually cropping it. Same thing with these little photos here. We're going to use little inset layer masks by using the paste into method so that you could move them around and reposition them before you're ready to kind of commit them to the layout that they're going to be. We're also going to use layer styles, which are things like the stroke and the drop shadow that are on these. There's a outer glow on this Johnson Lawn Care logo. There's a drop shadow on the text. There's a drop shadow on the text of these buttons or on the buttons themselves. There's also a stroke, rounded corner. So we're going to get into a little bit of everything with this Photoshop project, and hopefully a little bit of design too. As far as picking the colors, we're going to be sampling colors from the photos that you use and try to create unity with the photos that we use and try to create contrast and explore design principles a little bit. If you look at this sample, you can see that the header photo has green, which kind of repeats what their logo has. It also brings in a little bit of yellows, a little bit of browns in the mulch. So I kind of took that color from the mulch in here and used that to create some contrast. Brown is actually somewhat of a complement of green. If you think of what the complement of green is red, and brown is kind of a little bit of a variation off of red. It's a little more muddy version of red. You could go green, you probably wouldn't design using red and green, but you may use green and maybe violet, or you could go in the other direction and use more of a brownish color, a little more mutish. So there's still complements. Matter of fact, if you mix green and red together, you'll get more of a brownish putty kind of color. So that's where the contrast is used here. So little bits of green are kind of used. Also parts of the image are used. The color from these blocks that are used here are used over here. Color from the mulch. The white is repeated from the headline and down here, and there's a little bit of white in the logo. So all around here, we're going to focus on some design principles and some Photoshop operations as we create this. Now, this image that we're going to be working on, you're going to open up a file that looks like this. It's only going to have the Johnson Lawn Care logo. Now, this was done in Illustrator, and it was copied here, and it's already going to be here. So we're going to work with this as our start. And it's Johnson Lawn Care. It's not a landscaping company, so we have to think about our audience. It's a small company, so they cut lawns, they trim hedges. So when you look for photos, we don't have to look for, real Taj Mahal type photos, things like that. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And if you look at this image, first of all, I'm going to check the size. The image size we're going to be working with is going to be, first of all, the resolution is going to be 72 pixels per inch because it's for the web. So it's not going to be high resolution like 300. Also, the width, we're going to use like an 840 by 600, which is kind of a smaller size, but it's like a standard web page size to start. This will be kind of a static layout we'll be working with. Now, a lot of web pages may be designed to be more fluid, so they'll change, they'll be responsive, but for right now, we just want to put a comp together that you could show a client and say, this is kind of how your website's going to look to start. And then from there, the programming, the CSS, and everything could come after that. So we're going to give them a visual to start, and that's what we're going to do with this web page comp. We know that this is 840. One reason I kind of show you this is that when you're looking for images, especially for the header, you want to make sure they're not either too small or too big. So you want to make sure something's in the, 7, 8, 900 pixels or higher range. You don't want to try to bring something in here that's like 200 pixels and scale it up because it's going to be poor quality. So And also, remember, if you're going to be bringing in images that are like 4,000 pixels, you're going to have to scale them down quite a bit as well. And also, one other thing to keep in mind, especially for the header photo, that it's very short. You only have a very small area. You can see it's in inches right now. If I right click and change it to pixels, you can see it's only about 160 pixels high, and it's 840 pixels wide. So it's we don't have a lot of vertical space to put in here, so we're going to have to look for images that have a lot of effect that'll work in this kind of horizontal look. So that's what we're going to do first. So I'm going to go back to my layout here. Now, I do have grid lines for you, so you could go to View, Show, and turn on the guides. And that's pretty much how it'll be broken up. There's a header section, an address section, a footer section, a nav section on the left side, and a side section that we call, that's a HTML term, and a main section in the middle here. And also what we're going to do is we're going to use layer folders to kind of break this up. So all the elements we have in the header is going to go in a header layer folder. All the elements in the nav is going to be in a nav layer folder, and so on. But we'll get started with the header first. The reason we're going to start with the header is so we could get a lot of colors from that header picture. That'll give us kind of a starting point.